serving you? And what really, for me, it got down to, what is it that I truly value? And how can I live a life that reflects those values and not the fear and doubt that most of my beliefs are coming from? And
Wow.
so it's very different, because most of the time we react and we live, most of our beliefs about ourselves and the world come back to one core value, which is self-worth. I mean, we essentially live with the sentence, I don't believe I'm worthy of.
Well, and particularly when you've just gone through divorce, that's a
Well,
toughie.
but that was that was the catalyst for me cleaning it up. But I'd lived the I'm not worthy of love, success, happiness, peace, joy for 41 years before that. I mean, you build your belief systems
Hmm.
from a very early age. So, and it's crazy the things. I mean, if you saw the bleep, all the idea about how we attach meaning in the brain, I mean, that's very true. So you're essentially living your reality now based on your experiences in the past. So I write about this in the book. If I had an experience with a guy in a red shirt at some point in my life, I'm
Hmm.
now harboring some belief system about a guy with a red shirt, whether it's conscious or subconscious. For me, I wanted to bring it all conscious so I could say, "Oh, do I really need to like have an attitude around guys in red shirts, or can I let that go?" Because how many men have I thrown out who would have been amazing lovers and amazing relationships because they were wearing a red shirt? Because I had this crazy judgment. That's most of the time kind of irrational, that we don't even realize it. And most of the time based on the fact that I've been telling myself I don't deserve love. So let me find crazy reasons not to have it.
How do you actually do that though? Not the throwing out the guy with the red shirt. How do you realize? I mean, this is powerful to be able to be
Yeah.
that present with yourself.
Well, for me, it's mindfulness and conscious awareness. So within my game that I play,
Hmm.
I'll ask myself a lot of questions. For instance, if I have an experience or a reaction to something somebody has said to me, I want to examine, well, why, let me give you a perfect example of this. So
Sure.
I had a book come out last year, Tipping Sacred Cows, and I had to go do a book tour. And I don't love buying dresses and shopping and stuff like that. It's not my favorite thing to do. So I went out and bought a dress, come home, put the dress on, show it to my boyfriend. And I come out and I'm standing there like, ta da. And he goes and he laughs. And he says, "Oh,
Oh
that's
no.
great. I love the whole cow. I love the whole cow thing you've got going on."
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, "What? Did my boyfriend just call me a cow?" Like, because that's the first, because I'm short, I'm fat, I'm not beautiful. That's the story always running in my head. So therefore, my boyfriend just called me a cow. Now, I could have run with that. We could have had a drawn out brawl, screaming fight, you know, no sex or fun dinner that night, just had a huge fight. Or I could just stop and
Hmm.
go, okay, wait a minute. This person loves me and they think that
Yeah.
I'm beautiful. So it's highly unlikely that they're calling me a cow. So before I just run with this crazy thought monster in my head, let me ask him, what did you mean? I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Could you tell me what you meant? And he said, your dress, it's black and white like a cow print. Your book, it's called Tipping Sacred Cows. You're kind of doing this whole cow themed. I think it's really clever. I was calling you clever. And so
Safe.
there in there there in that moment is what happens most of the time when we have communication. My friend Francis Rico is a really great teacher,
Hmm.
calls the English language kerplunk, because most of the time we're not actually communicating with each other. You're speaking from your wounds, fears, and doubts,
Hmm.
hearing me through that same filter, and I'm hearing you and speaking to you through those same fears and doubts. And that's all we're doing is we're just vomiting fear and doubt on each other. And so if we just stop
That
for a
sounds like
second and
no
go,
fun.
but that's kind of what we're doing. It's hard. I mean, God, and I still do it so much. Oh my God. But, being able to just interrupt that pattern and go,
Hmm.
well, is there another way that I could see this right now? Is there another perspective? In the bleep, and Amakaswamy talks about the sea of potentials. And
Yes.
everybody loves to grab a hold of quantum physics and relate it to spirituality. So here's a great metaphor. The
Hmm.
sea of potentials is really a million perspectives, a gazillion that you could have on any one thing. And you get to choose, and you're choosing based on your belief system. So if you keep choosing over and over again not worthy of love. And when you begin to observe that that's the pattern that you keep choosing, once you have the awareness of the pattern, then you can say, oh, I don't want to live that pattern anymore. And then you can choose a new one. But you have to get conscious awareness around what is my pattern.
So is that because I'm picturing this moment when you may have been called a cow, and I'm picturing cortisol levels, adrenaline have just gone,
Right,
whew.
right, right.
And so this is a very powerful example because at that moment you're only half in control. Your chemistry is in
Take
for the party.
well, it is if you're aware of the fact that your chemistry is going to take over. Candace Pert, who was in the bleep, says
Mhm.
essentially, I think it's like 90 seconds for it to run through your system. So just let it run. That doesn't mean you actually have to respond. You can just let it do its thing.
So is it a practice that you've done in advance of preparing yourself? How is it that you're able to stay present in that moment?
You just have to choose to stay present.
Okay.
It's a choice. It's a control of the mouth mostly. It's oh, I'm about to get really pissed off and say something snarky back. And I have this mouth and I can actually choose to not run it. And
Hmm.
so what I'm going to do right now is let this whole process run and tell my mouth to not move until I've had a clear thought. And so then it's just interrupting the pattern. And so your mouth closes and you listen and you hear him, wait a minute, he just called me a cow. What the hell? I don't know. And you let that go. And then you go, okay, that's one option. Are there others? Because I want to choose one. Oh, there's this other option over here. That one's a little bit calmer and a little more chill. Let me start there. It literally is. I mean, everybody probably in your audience has seen that movie Inside Out. We joke because it's basically the bleep for little kids. Um, and that's, you see all these emotions running around in your head. Somebody has to be in charge. So the conscious awareness is the corralling of the crazies in your head
Hmm.
and being in charge of them. And so being able to say, no, I'm not going to run that one because that's not going to end well. And it actually isn't true. And, there's all these questions that you can say. Is it true that my boyfriend would call me a cow? No. So then I don't really need to respond with, you asshole, you just called me a cow, because he didn't actually do that. So it's just conscious awareness. It sounds like there's some trick. And the trick is, hey, guess what? Start paying attention to the crazies that are in your head before they come flying out of your mouth.
So let's talk about crazies in a different direction, because you were for a while, and you may still be, a woman in the know. You had the answers,
Right.
and
Until you
then
didn't.
it seemed like yes, the sacred cow is you didn't have all the answers.
Right. Well, I think the interesting thing is that we all have all the answers.
Hmm.
We really do. Like, think about it. Most of the time, we know what to do, but we don't choose that because it's not feeding our belief systems and our emotional machine,
Our chemistry.
our chemistry. So, and we get to a place where, you get to be my age. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 45. We get up there in our 30s even, and we're kind of running on autopilot.
Hmm.
We've kind of, we're on, the brain is now running amok, pulling out all this old data, and you're just like, okay, yeah, that's easy. Okay, okay. Oh, yeah, I'll get mad because my brain is telling me to do that right now because it put all these crazy pieces together that said my boyfriend just called me a cow. So let's run with that. So it's like lazy brain. And so I mean, I actually think we do all know, because if you get unlazy and you start to be conscious and thoughtful, then you go, oh, I really don't want to have a fight with my boyfriend because I know he didn't just call me a cow. So I don't think I'll do that. Oh, it's not actually that hard. It's just that it requires work. And we've gotten really late. And so I think everybody knows. I think, do we know all the 12 steps to this, or do we know which Hindu goddess does that? Who cares? We all really truly know how to live, but our brain has gotten lazy and is just running with a program that's not serving us.
Hmm.
So when we can get in charge of our brain, what I realized is like, wow, I do know, you know.
So in the book, you talk about attachment. So, and you talk about packing things up and
Mhm.
moving out, something that my wife and I are extremely intimately familiar with.
Right,
We actually packed everything up, and almost none of it came with us. Um,
right.
what can you tell us about attachment and letting go?
So my new motto this week, I found
Yes.
a necklace in I was away this weekend and I found this necklace and on it it has a nail
Hmm.
and a little medallion. On one side it says Que sera sera,
Yeah.
and on the other side it says let go or be dragged. Um and I thought, that's true. So the thing about attachments
Hmm.
to me that's really interesting is that first of all, there's a lot of guilt and shaming around having stuff. Because in the spiritual world, you're not supposed to have any attachments to anything, and that's bad and that's very unspiritual. And that really was one of those disconnects for me. That and like kill the ego are two of the most frustrating
The
spiritual
the first
buzzwords.
one can lead to poverty consciousness, which isn't good for anybody.
Right. Well, and then what for me, what I realized, it's like, it's not about whether or not you have stuff. Like, I have a lot of stuff, even, and I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff, and I'm good at getting rid of stuff, but I'm also good at keeping stuff. But for me, what was really important was understanding what the stuff represented.
Aha.
So, what does it mean? I have this mug. It's my favorite mug. It's got little owls on it. It's
Hoo-hoo.
very cute. I got in Harmony. Like, and did I need to buy this mug? No, because I probably have like 25 other mugs in my cupboard, right? But this mug represented something to me and it was meaningful.
Mhm.
And so, but tomorrow, if the mug were to break, I would be sad because I like the mug, but I wouldn't be devastated because I would still have the meaning. So that to me is what attachment is. It's like, you can let go of stuff that is no longer, stuff, physical stuff.
Yeah.
Remember the meaning of it for you. But also, you have to realize that it's not the stuff that's giving you anything. You, once again, are attaching the meaning to the stuff. So that's why for me, it's like, well, if I have it, great. If I don't have it, great, because I always have the meaning. Everything is here. So that like got rid of my concern around attachment, my guilt around having stuff or not having stuff. Because we like stuff. Like I'm kind of attached to my kids. You know, I kind of like them. They're kind of cool. They're fun. We there's this thing of like this idea that if you're attached, you're going to suffer.
Mhm.
Attachment means suffering. And that's true if you have an unhealthy attachment to something because you don't understand that it's not the thing, it's you. Does that make sense?
I love it in the attachment chapter when you're actually talking about your daughter who very it seems like conscious, maybe even conscious pregnancy, conscious each step of the way, the
Right.
music playing, everything going, and um, she didn't. In one particular occasion, she said something. Well, you share.
Right. Right. Well, the thing is, like, one of the things that happens, of course, when you have kids is you have a story about who they're going to become,
Hmm.
right? And I'm living in this, country woods, and I'm going to give birth to like the most spiritual cherub baby in the planet, right? And she's going to float and levitate and all that kind of stuff. And so when she's born, she's a firecracker. My daughter's 11 now, and she's still a firecracker. She even said to me the other day, to go back to your lack consciousness. Well, I'll finish the story and then I'll tell you where this story led to because I think it's really important is that so I'm, got the wooden toys and, all the things that you're supposed to have that are spiritual and I'm trying to get her to clean up the playroom one day. And I'm singing the song, clean up, everybody do your share. And she looks at me and she goes, ugh. And she's 3. She goes, ugh, I can hardly wait till I'm older and I can pay someone to do this. And I was like, who are you? And it was this moment of realization. And just recently, she said to me, we were talking about something, and she goes, I want to be rich. And it's funny because I said that to a few of my friends, and they're like, oh, that's not good. And I'm like, actually, why isn't that good? Why am I teaching my daughter, don't try to be rich, don't try to be successful, don't try to have what you want in life? That's her, it's who
Hmm.
she is. So, and I had decided that that wasn't spiritual. And it really probably in some way impacted her. Now I tell her all the time, I'm like, well, if that's really what you want, go for it, girlfriend, rock on, do that because that's who she is. So I had to let go of my attachment around the story of who I wanted her to be
Hmm.
versus loving this being for who she really is. And that's when you that to me, I didn't let go of my daughter. I didn't just there's this detachment where I don't care. Let que sera, sera, be whatever you're going to be. I don't think that's possible for any human. But if I can say I care about this person enough to allow her to be exactly who she needs to and wants to be, and I'm going to guide her the best I can, there's still attachment there, but it's not attachment. Does that make sense?
That does make some sense, and it
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier because you can love your daughter, but there's probably no way you can make her into what you want her to be.
You know what? And that's part of most what frustrates the bejesus out of most parents is that most of the time we're trying to turn our kids into something they're not.
Hmm.
And, we got to let them be who they are. Just like they have to let you be who you are. It's hard, but to me, it was the biggest letting go that I've done. Letting go of my kids without letting go of my kids, if you know what I mean.
Yes, yes. So now let's jump into the lack part. You said there was an important point with
Uh,
lack.
well, the thing about it was that when my daughter was talking about wanting to be rich,
Yes.
you know, I know my daughter. She's the most caring, kind-hearted, giving kid I know. I mean, there's lots of them, but she's also loving and kind. I mean, I always call her the animal whisperer. She can come out into my backyard and all the creatures will come and sit with her and talk. I mean, like seriously, it's
Wow.
crazy. Um, so she's got a beautiful heart. But you know what? She's growing up in a reality that is consumer driven and she sees it everywhere. And so for me to sit there and say having money is bad, all I'm setting her up for is failure to succeed later on in her life.
Hmm.
I tell her, well, money doesn't mean success. And she knows that. But she also knows that if she has a lot of money, she can do whatever she wants because that's the way society is created. That's the way the world is. Money is with you. When you have money, you have peace. I mean, you look at all these people, wealthy people who are spiritual, they're still spiritual, but they can go to Maui whenever they want. And that's a nice thing to do. And for me to tell her, don't do that because it's bad, is setting her up for lack consciousness. Why can't I teach her how to be connected to her heart and to be conscious and thoughtful and have what she needs to do what she wants in life? There's nothing wrong with having both.
I like that because you're not setting her up for the internal tug of war.
Right. It's like, you know, know why. What I work on with my kids is just know why you want something. Like this is a big thing with the law of attraction. Everybody makes their vision boards and they put that they want to be a size 2 and they're never going to be a size 2. So when she says to me, "Mom, I really want this toy."
Yeah.
It's not, "Oh, you don't need that." It's, "Well, what is it that's going to fulfill in you?" Yeah, so understanding, why do you want what you want? And so, like, for my daughter, if she says, "I want this toy," I just want her to understand that it's whatever pleasure or joy she's getting out of the toy, she's creating.
Hmm.
And so, but there's nothing wrong with wanting the toy. There's nothing wrong with that. Just as long as you realize that you could still have joy without the toy. And she's pretty good about that stuff. She gets it. But so so that's the distinction. It's like when people say to me, they put Mercedes on their vision boards. It's sort of like, well, what does the Mercedes represent? And do you have that without the Mercedes? And when you can say, yes, I have that without the Mercedes, then I say, go buy the Mercedes. But if you don't have that and the only way you're going to get it is to buy the Mercedes, then you should not be buying that Mercedes.
Or you're going to need a second Mercedes and a
Or you have a third
third.
Mercedes. All sorts of other stuff to go with it. I mean, that's just how it rolls.
Hmm.
It's just how that's how the law of attraction works. Just so, if you don't mind, we're gonna walk for a second because my battery on my computer is dying. It's
All
like, oh my
right.
God,
So
we've been having a powerful conversation. We're just sucking the life out of everything.
I like it.
Um,
While you're going,
this,
um,
this is my little house.
excellent, beautiful. Ooh, that's beautiful hanging up there.
There's my Ganesh. Can you see him? I don't know. Oh, I see a nice tea. There's
Where's he?
Ganesh.
Oh, Ganesh.
Hi, Ganesh.
Woohoo!
And this is my friend got me this cow. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, wow.
Chip,
A sacred cow.
he's a sacred cow. So, I mean, but see, this is what my whole book is about. It's just, I call them sacred cows because it's also just about getting real clarity on what this stuff means and how it can really make a difference in your life, like the law of attraction. Because when I understood that everything that I was seeking
Hmm.
was this external stuff that I'm seeking was really just me trying to feed the needs. God, I want a Mercedes, so that's feeding my whole fear of success and being accepted. And once I have a Mercedes, I'll get that. Once I can go, oh, there's this really, it's funny, in the spiritual world and in the regular world, we're told to pursue happiness,
Yeah.
seek enlightenment, find balance.
Uh-oh,
But
I see the key word that's a problem in this.
so what happens is that, but the greatest, biggest sacred cow of the whole spiritual world is
Hmm.
that everything that you're looking for is within you.
Yes.
So if everything that I'm looking for is within me, I don't have to seek, pursue, or find it. I have it. So now I just see I have abundance. I have success. I have these things. And I'd like a Mercedes because that's fun. Oh, okay, cool. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's a
Yes.
totally different power struggle. Like you've let go of that need that these things are going to do anything for you.
I
And
think
when
in
you can do that, the whole lack consciousness goes away.
exactly what I was going to say. No, no, that's much better from you than from me.
Yeah.
So, um, on that line, okay, so we're letting go, and when you let go, I mean, it's like the old adage of you're trying to date, and when you go looking for somebody, you never find them. When you say you don't need that person, boom, there they are.
Right, right. Well, and it's true and on every level. It is true on every level. And it's the hardest thing for anyone to friggin' do, for God's sake, to let go. Because I'm like a type A control person too. Like I have to have everything organized and planned and figured out. So for me, there was a lot of judgment around that. Like people always used to say, like, you're too controlling, you want everything to be a certain way. And so I had a lot of judgment in myself. And I've really worked on being able to have my type A personality
Hmm.
because but to realize like, oh, I'm planning and organizing because I like it. But I'm also very aware that it could go a different way. Something else could happen. And so it's the letting go of the outcome, but still being willing to do the work and holding the dream and saying, my dream is I want this movie to happen.
Hmm.
And I've got to do this and this and this and this and this to get there. But if that movie falls apart, which happens, then that's just part of the process, and I'm okay with that too.
How do you deal then? Because you talk in the book about one of the sacred cows being screwing up. How do you deal with the fear of not being able to hold it all together, or the fear of something getting messed up?
Well, first of all, I think this comes with age. But if you look back on our lives, we've survived a lot.
It's true.
We've screwed up
We're
a
still
lot.
here.
And we're still here. I wrote this poem. It's on my website. It's from Mantra Magazine, where a teacher once said to me, "I want you to imagine your worst nightmare, your
Hmm.
worst fear coming true, and I want you to really, because if you close your eyes and you imagine having a strawberry, your brain does the same thing as if you were really eating a strawberry. So you can really have an experience without leaving your chair." And so I went through the process of living out my worst fear. And it was gut wrenching. And took me 10 hours, and I sobbed and I screamed and I cried and I let every possible horrible thing that could happen. And I saw it happening. And it was exhausting. And then I went to sleep. And then I woke up the next day, and the first thing I thought is, oh, I'm still here.
Hmm.
And yeah,
That's
I'll
powerful.
just have to okay, so that happened, and now I just have to rebuild from there. One of the greatest things that happened to me in my life was getting divorced. Because if I hadn't gotten divorced,
Yeah.
I would be still where I was and really unhappy. But in getting divorced and blowing up every aspect of my life, I finally gave myself permission to recreate from a new space. Now, is that a fully enlightened space? No, because the other thing I've given myself permission is like there is no end game. There's no end.
Yeah.
The journey does not end. You just die in the middle of it sometimes. That's what happens.
To be
Um,
continued, maybe.
right? Maybe, maybe not. So the fact that for me, the rush,
Hmm.
because I was always in a rush to get there.
Yep.
Now it's like, oh well, okay.
There's
So
no there.
there's no there to get to. So if everything comes crashing down, then everything comes crashing down. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm gonna do this because what else am I gonna do? You know, there's this funny little meme that always floats around Facebook. My honey sent it to me one day. He said, I hate to ruin the ending, but everything is going to be okay. And that's another one of my mantras. It's like, look, you know what? It helps me not take everything so seriously. That's why my book is so silly and funny. I try to be funny because like we take so much so seriously. And there's things that we should take seriously, but getting cancer, death, the death of a loved one. These are processes that we have to go through. But if you can hold on in the midst of all that, a tiny bit of your sense of humor
Hmm.
and a little reminder of, look, this is a now, and this is an experience, and boy baby are you in it, but it's going to be okay. That's where that peace that we're all looking for, to me, that's my peace.
Holding on to that centered moment no matter what. Wow, they're all crashing down around me.
Oh, are you getting a thunderstorm?
No, no, I'm saying that holding
Right,
on to that piece when it is crashing down all around you.
right. You're right. Yeah,
So,
because we've gone through it a lot, a lot. I mean, in your life, look, I love to tell people, especially when they're having this I can't do this moment,
mhm.
just to say, okay, just take a minute and look at your life and look at what you've done with your life. Whatever it is, I'm not talking about, you climbed Mount Everest or these grand things. Just look at the little things in your life. First of all, most of us are lucky we even survived our 20s, right? So we didn't come out with it with, I mean, I always say I'm amazed I didn't come out with a drug addiction or a venereal disease, right?
Mhm.
So like, look at what you've accomplished. You can totally do this. And you might say, this is the hardest thing that I've ever done. And it might be, but you've done so much before. That last thing was the hardest thing you'd ever done. And you did that too,
True.
you know?
So, what would three, if you have three, three key takeaway pieces of advice or words of wisdom you would give people?
Let go and laugh. It's only life, and everything is going to be okay.
Woohoo!
There you go. I laugh a lot more, even when sometimes when it's wildly inappropriate. I just start giggling because I just think this is a trip. Like I get up every morning and I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, this is crazy. How, like, I get to do this again? Okay,
And then you
here
laugh.
we go. And then I laugh. And then I'm like, all right, let's go. What trouble am I gonna get in today? What cow manure am I stepping in? Will I get that shit off my shoe or no? Or, it's like you gotta care
Mhm.
because that's important. But when you really get clear on what do you value and when you really realize that everything that we're doing is made up, like this is all made up, right? Everything is just made up. Then you can kind of step back and go, oh, I have a little bit more calmness around this because, you know, that fight that I was going to have with my boyfriend or that fight that I had with my boyfriend was really shitty. But I learned a couple things about myself and I'm ready to, that was then and this is now. And you can just kind of move on or wherever you're at. It's not the one great thing about in Buddhism
Yeah.
is the idea of impermanence. Nothing ever stays the same. Nothing ever, things are always in motion. Things will always move. And if you can just chill out a little and get a little more conscious awareness, you have a little bit more say in where it's moving to.
Do you have a one last mantra?
God, I've got so many. Right now it's let go or be dragged.
Yes.
Laugh, it's only life. Those are
Yeah.
my two big mantras. And have some fun. Like have some
Yay.
fun. I love having fun. Make this fun.
We can do that.
It doesn't have to be so serious, you know.
No,
Go hang out with kids.
that's interesting. It's something, well, kids are taught for a while to have fun, and then most of them are taught, now you've got to get serious, grow up.
Right. I tell my kids all the time, you're gonna have to grow up but you don't have to take everything so seriously, you know. And you don't have to do what anybody tells you to do. I failed miserably as a parent in one aspect is because I told my kids don't ever do anything